I'm Megan Waldrop, host of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast, an extension of an online community for partners to connect and feel less alone. Our podcast invites fishermen, family, friends, and supporters of the industry to learn, laugh, vent, and hear stories about this incredibly unique way of life. What do you say? Let's dive in. Hello, my lovely community of Partners of Commercial Fishermen, supporters, all of you. Thank you for coming back and listening to another episode of our amazing podcast that highlights people in our community and our community in general and how freaking amazing we are and how, maybe people might underestimate us, but this is an episode to this is a podcast to constantly remind you of your influence and your power and how freaking important and special you are. So before we get into more of that, talk about special, I'm so excited because we're going to start off today with the best gift ever, which is free money. And I'm not even kidding. I'm being serious. I'm so excited to announce that we've partnered with Cotten, who is our first podcast sponsor and also is giving away scholarships to students of fishing families and partners of commercial fishermen. So this is what's going down. So we're giving away $500 scholarships to 4 students and 1-year memberships to the Partners of Commercial Fishermen private forum to 4 POCFs. And I know it seems like there's a catch, but there isn't. I also wanted to add that the memberships to the Partners of Commercial Fishermen forum, you also get access to the private group chat. You get the survival guide. You get a t-shirt. You also get access, 1-year access to the private newsletter and the private podcast, which are launching in 2025. So just so much goodness, right? So all you have to do is answer 6 quick questions, and you don't have to write an essay or anything like that. We just want to learn more about you, like what fishery you're associated with and where you're located and things like that. We're not even going to judge on the type of answer you provide. As long as you do fill out those answers, you are automatically entered to win. The link is in the show notes. It's going to take you to a Google Doc, and all you have to do is submit it. Boom, you're automatically entered. And winners will be announced on October 10th on Instagram and personal emails, and I'll probably shoot out a newsletter to our newsletter community as well. So free money from Cotten scholarships with the Partners of Commercial Fishermen. Thank you, Cotten, for supporting our community. And, I want to say why I love Cotten. And it's not just for the specific free money thing, which obviously is very helpful. But a little background on the company. Cotten, which is actually the guy's name who started the company, he was in France, I believe, over in Europe, and he started the company by walking the docks and talking to fishermen to get their feedback on the challenges they had with their gear, and got their suggestions and improved their gear because of that. Okay, so fast forward 50 years, and their U.S. subsidiary, the one in the USA, is a whole separate other company, and they still carry that same passion for people. And they reached out to me because they wanted to learn how to best connect with the fishing community and to help fishing families pay for school and find support. And let me tell you that not all companies care like this. Trust me, I'll just leave it at that. Not all companies actually give back to our people, and Cotten is actually putting their money where their mouth is. So I am so proud to link up with Cotten. And I look forward to partnering with more companies with shared values to actively support our commercial fishing families and communities. So once again, that link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for your interest. And yeah, go to the link and good luck. And it'll be, announced October 10th, 10/10. See what I did there? Okay, so diving into today's episode. So it's interesting. I've been talking a lot to our community for the past, we've been talking about this since 2019, I will say. I started off on my blog, writing posts here and there, and I really, really dove into it in 2020. And it's been so amazing to talk to our people, to really get a sense of what you guys are going through, how similar our challenges are, and also our joys, and just to see where we are, right? Just check the pulse for over 5 years. It's been awesome. And one of the biggest highlights that has come out of that is speaking to other people outside of the industry about our community and about the commercial fishing industry in general. So today I'm going to talk about the biggest takeaways I got from a recent conference. It's called the Ocean Innovation Conference. and also MC, a North Carolina EcoTech Summit that was held in Wilmington, North Carolina last week. And, the biggest, what I've learned, people are very interested to learn about us, by the way. It's really, like energizing in a sense to people like, oh, wow, wait, what do they do? And wow, I didn't realize that job took so much effort and work, and I didn't realize how much effort the partners of commercial fishermen are putting into it, and the families and the kids. And it was just really amazing to see people light up whenever they understand what we do. And so also I want to say, 'cause I'm going to be bouncing around on different topics about this because I'm so stoked about it. But one of the biggest influences that we have as partners of commercial fishermen is, sharing our lives, and also, just being able to connect with people on that more personal level. And that's going to help them feel more connected to the industry and more wanting to support small fisheries, small fishing companies, and also buy wild caught seafood, which is what us in the commercial fishing industry, that's what we want. We work hard to provide this incredible premier protein to the world, and we want people to enjoy it, and we want to be able to enjoy harnessing that food for generations to come with healthy oceans, healthy fisheries. Like, we actually care. And that was a great message that I was able to get across. But before I go into this even further, I wanted to let y'all know. So apparently, and it's real because you can look it up. I had to look it up like 3 times to make sure that it was actually real. Did you know that North Carolina has the second largest coastline on the East Coast? Maine is number one. Okay, fun fact. If you're ever in a trivia, Maine has the largest coastline. North Carolina is the second largest coastline. And you might be like, well, what about Florida? Okay, Florida's third. But the reason why that Maine and North Carolina have the largest coastlines is because of all the inlets and bays and access to waterways. So if you think about it, like that intercoastal, we have a lot of coastline that way. And that blew my mind. And I feel like it's important to talk about this, or to mention that, because as I go into why this conference was so helpful and important. But if you want to nerd out with me, because I had to look it up. So Maine has the largest Atlantic coastline in the United States at 3,478 miles. North Carolina is at 3,375 miles. And Florida's Atlantic coastline is 3,341. Now, Florida, if you count the Gulf Coast and everything, it's like over 8,000. But I'm just talking about the Atlantic coastline. So, fun fact, how freaking cool is that? So, I'm going to dive into the big lessons I learned at the conference. I learned that North Carolina is a super hub for all things related to the blue economy and blue technology. You might hear these words here and there, but North Carolina is striving to be a hub and is already a hub for that. There were people at the conference who represented businesses focusing on technological advances in ocean science, professors from renowned universities like Duke and the University of North Carolina and North Carolina State, which those 3 universities are collectively known as the Research Triangle because they are a hub for tech and biotech companies. There were CEOs of ocean-focused businesses, venture capitalists, best-selling author, and there were wild-caught seafood representatives like myself and Landon Hill with Local Catch app. If you haven't checked out Local Catch app, check it out. It's like an intermediary between fishermen and buyers, from buyers' restaurants or even people who are interested in getting fresh seafood. Local Catch, check it out. There was also aquaculture is highly represented. The oyster farming in North Carolina is a huge industry. North Carolina, we have something called the Oyster Trail that you can take all around the coast and taste the different oysters, and we are, quote unquote, the Napa Valley of oysters because of that. There's also a cultivated seafood company that somehow makes fish from cells of other fish, which I'm interested and curious to know how that even is done. But there was also a crowd full of people who are interested in the ocean, but also dedicate their lives to preserving our coastlines, oceans, and communities. Number 2, I learned through all that, because it was so diverse. We were all over the place. There was even a guy, side note, who has a company who wants to build tiny homes underwater to help people research the ocean floor more, which blew my mind. It sounded so freaking cool. So yes, there were companies that spanned the spectrum, if you will. But I learned that, each company and its initiative was unique to its own. Excuse me. But the common thread is that we all care about the ocean equally. yet we have different skill sets to help it thrive. We all can work together on this. There's a place in the sun, there's a place in the ocean for us all, I personally believe. And then I learned, like I mentioned before, that there was a large community that really cares about what we have to say. On a side note, my initial concern of moving from California to North Carolina, I've moved to North Carolina, let's see, we bought our house last summer. So my initial concern was that I wouldn't really have anyone to connect with because there wasn't really a big commercial fishing industry there. Which, by the way, is why the Partners of Commercial Fisherman community is so important to me, because even I myself was like, I don't have community. I don't have a fisherman's wives group I can go to. Who am I going to reach out to? Thank God y'all exist, because that connection is still there. However, I was wondering, how am I going to be able to get more plugged into the fishing industry, because I'm no longer near my fisherman. I'm no longer near his port, his home port. So that's what I mean by that. But it turns out I was completely freaking wrong because, like I said, North Carolina is the hub of the blue economy and blue tech, and it was just freaking awesome. And by the way, if there's any southeastern fishery people that are listening, or Partners of Commercial Fishermen, please contact me, because I would love to connect and learn about your lifestyle and see if there's anything I can help with solution-based ideas, or just like freaking hang out. You know what I mean? So support at Megan Waldrop or support at POCFpride.com. Either one would work. So yeah, honestly, I was so honored to be a part of the conference. I had a booth where I could share the powers of our community, because we are a gateway to preserving fisheries and coastal communities due to our access to fishermen, and because we advocate to local governments and we have, proof to back it up. Like, what we have the metrics to help people see, like, oh yeah, these fisheries are very healthy, and this isn't just a numbers game for some. I feel like I feel like maybe I'll put a pin in that. This we could talk about that in another conversation, because you know how that can go spin off. But one of our magical powers is that we are valuable communicators between fishing communities and researchers and scientists, and even the general public. And if this speaks to you, please reach out to me. Again, I would love to connect with you on this, with any kind of experience that you have had doing this, or if you would like, if you'd like to learn more about how to go about it, which actually I'm gonna record another podcast about advocacy and the steps to do that. So that's gonna follow up next week. So, we are the ones, as partners, we are the ones holding down the fort, but we're also making a difference because we help manage the fishing business. We advocate, and we also can be a voice for sustainability, however you want to define that term, within the fisheries. And we can provide a huge service to the industry and our small fishing communities just by changing public perception and personalizing the people who catch their seafood. You know what I mean? Like I said, when people feel more connected to you, they're going to feel more connected to wild caught seafood, to local fishermen and things like that. You have more power than you think. And yes, so let me give you a little rundown of the conference, a little behind the scenes. So the day before, I set up the table, and my mom helped me. She's a tablescape designer. And so I was like, Mom, help me make this special. I wanted to represent our community because, not only just have like, oh, here's some pamphlets in my business card and here's a sticker. Like, I wanted to create an experience for people to come to the table, because this is how I feel about you. I'm like, these women, these partners deserve to have a beautiful table set. This is how much love and care that they give out to their families and their fishermen and their fishing communities, and I want to help reflect that. And honestly, I was able to do that in a sense because I used sequin tabletops that were reflecting all over the place. I had these tabletop, tablecloths, left over from my time at the Pacific Marine Expo, because National Fishermen gave me an hour each day last year to take over their booth, and I quickly turned it into a vibe as much as I could for POCF. So I draped sequin tablecloths over all the high top tables. I had little LED lanterns with signs and information and pictures of our community, and I even had catered veggie cups, like carrots and cucumbers and things like that, and with little ranch dressing cups, because I wanted to have something nourishing for people to enjoy, because that's also representative of our community and what we do for our families. We are the ones providing that kind of nourishment and love, and I wanted to give that out to others. So I was so happy I got to use these items again and make it super special, because y'all deserve it. I want you to feel like you could pull up a chair and feel cared for and loved, because you always have a seat at our table. Amen and namaste. So, yes, I added the glowing LED lanterns, the string lights, the candelabras with the flickering candles. It was a mood. It was cozy. People came up to me. They're like, "Oh, we saw your table from across the way." I was like, "Oh, that's great. Let me tell you more about the Partners of Commercial Fishermen." And I started off, what's really helpful, and maybe this is helpful if people are curious about your life. I compare us to military spouses. That's the first thing I say. Well, first I say commercial fishermen are the wild caught seafood that you buy at a grocery store or in a restaurant is caught by our fishermen. Then I say that we are often compared to military spouses because of the dangerous jobs of our partners, and they're gone for long periods of time and we're left to hold down the fort. However, we're also a lot of times responsible for helping to manage the fishing business and advocate for our fisheries. And that is how it starts to roll into the conversation, where people are like, "Oh, okay, people can understand military spouses a lot easier than maybe a partner of a commercial fisherman." But that is the closest industry, I guess, if you would say industry, that you can compare us to, as you know. So that's just a little talking points if you find that helpful. But it was, there isn't really a large fishing presence in Wilmington. There are commercial fishermen. We have spoken to one. Chris even talked about jumping on a boat with one. And it's interesting. I want to learn more about the fishery in Wilmington, but from what I understand, it's spearfishing is huge for the commercial fishing. So he's like, the fisherman's diving like 70 feet. I want to say he almost said 120, which made me gulp and go, I don't know if I want Chris to do this, but spearfishing. So I'm going on a tangent, but I feel like this is relevant. From what I understand, there's a fisherman that works with a specific seafood restaurant, or not restaurant, a market in Wilmington. So he goes out, he parks his boat right by the market, and he is kind of the sole provider or one of the sole providers of the wild caught seafood, and he spearfishes for a lot of it, which blew my freaking mind. And, I would love to connect with him. I would love to see if he has a partner that I can connect with, because obviously they may have more time to talk to me than he does. So stay tuned about that. And if anybody's like, "That's not how it is," write me, tell me, support@pocfpride.com. Tell me what I want to learn. I want to learn how to get this right, so I can also facilitate this information. So back to the conference, it was great. I got to talk to a lot of people. One of the highlights was hearing Susan Casey, who is a national best-selling author. She had a book. I read her book called The Devil's Teeth, and it's about great white sharks off of a very small cluster of islands near San Francisco. And she does a great job of mixing science and creative writing. So she used a lot of metaphors in an artful way that made the science and storytelling really interesting to a subject that maybe personally I was like, "Oh yeah, great white sharks. Like, I appreciate ocean animals," but I'm like, "Okay, we'll see how this goes." It was really fascinating to learn. So if that's The Devil's Teeth, if you're interested. There was a bunch of other panelists who focused on ocean sustainability. Of course, that's a huge topic. I think everywhere you've probably all are almost sick of that word, but also we need to figure that part out, right? Or to figure out the best way that we can contribute to that. And I know a lot of you are already doing that, so I appreciate that. And everybody does. So high five. And that is why we're here as well, because we want to talk about what our fishing communities are actively doing as of now to create more sustainable fishing grounds for us all. And if you also want to talk about that, holla, because I'd love to have you on the podcast. We ate great food at the conference. Everybody had like round tables that we'd sit at while the people were speaking, and then they would break, and then we could go to our booths and talk to the public who wanted to come up and chat with us. It was great. So, wonderful long day. The following day was probably the most interesting to me. It was called the North Carolina EcoTech Coastal Resilience Visioning Session. So I was really excited to see what this was all about, because I wanted us to have a seat at the table. And I thought, all right, so what could we offer? What kind of challenges are they seeing and what could our community help with? It was at the UNCW Marine Science Center. Once again, it was an event where I didn't know what to expect. And so first we met in the auditorium and got a rundown of about 5 different initiatives that spanned protection and recovery, regional water level networks, coastal cultivation, nature-based solutions, technology and mapping, and water quality measuring and modeling. But I think that was 6 different initiatives. After that, we were put into breakout sessions. So we had name tags, and each name tag had a number. I went to group 1. And once again, I said, okay, I'm just going to listen. I'm not really sure what I can do here. But I know that there's something because it has to do with the ocean. And if anybody knows the ocean, it's partners, or it's fishermen, number 1, and it's partners. Like, we are deeply connected within our hearts and souls. So it was about preserving coastlines and mainly about flooding and runoff. That was the main challenge that our breakout session was trying to solve or give ideas about how we could help in that area. And it was amazing to know, I said, well, one of the major untapped resources is our working waterfronts, especially commercial fishermen. We don't just research and read numbers on a page. We know it, like, inherently. The salt is in our blood. Fishermen know the tides, they know the currents, they know how the catch changes from season to season, and their wisdom is gained on a visceral level, and they know how to react to the changing state of the ocean. They know it. And they can tell you beautiful stories about it too. I was really proud, and it gets me emotional thinking about it right now, thinking about our fishermen and everyone in our community, is that, we are experts, we are professionals, and we are skillful. Especially fishermen are experts, professionals, and skillful at their craft, and so are we as partners. We're experts, professionals, and skillful at supporting this community. And like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, one of our magical powers is that we have access to our fishermen to have conversations. We are a huge untapped resource for change because of our influence, our knowledge of the fishing business, and especially our nurturing and communication skills. We can see all sides and contribute our knowledge to making a difference to help preserve our fisheries in that way. And I was thrilled to know that people in that room actually cared and wanted to learn more about us. I felt that we were seen and heard, and I feel like many people realized that many challenges could be possibly solved by working with fishermen and partners in our community. Our greatest resource is our resourcefulness. And if anybody knows this, it's commercial fishing families. I'm going to say it again. Our greatest resource is our resourcefulness. Boom. We know this to be true. Your power as a partner to nurture, build community, and to be an emotionally intelligent human being is vital. One reason, because when you're talking about fisheries and the ocean and sustaining the ocean and environmental, all these things, like, navigating emotions is one of the most important skills a person can offer. Your voice matters regardless of how big or small your role may be or you think it may be. And like I said, I'm gonna talk about this in the next podcast about advocacy and the steps you can take to put your heart into action if you so choose. But overall, it was just really made me reflect back on how important we are in so many ways, not just in our immediate communities, but on a worldwide scale, on a statewide scale, on a nationwide scale, on a global scale, how much that we can make a difference, and we already are, with not only within our small worlds, which is within ourselves, within our fishermen, within our families, but our communities, and also just being who we are. We are actively advocating for our fisheries by just existing, okay? Just existing on this planet. And we have so much knowledge, so much wisdom, and so much access that I don't think we realize how powerful that is. And so that was the biggest takeaway from this conference, and I wanted to share that with you to make you, but to help you realize that, like I said, your voice matters. You are so influential, regardless of how big or small you think your role may be. And I'm going to leave it at that right now. And I'm going to carry this conversation over into the advocacy episode, which is coming up next. So I just want to say thank you for being here. You being a listener to this podcast is a huge part of that advocacy piece. So thank you so much for showing up every week and downloading the episode, because that is huge. That really helps me navigate to other people who might want to sponsor us and give us more free money. That there are people out there who actually care about what we do and what we have to say. So thank you so much for being here. If you leave a review, that is another level that would be super helpful. If not, just thanks. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just thank you for being here. And I love you. I really do. I feel like we're friends that haven't met, and some of us have met. It's great. But I feel like there's so many of us that we have this connective bond, and whether we meet in person or not, like, it is real and it's true. And I so appreciate you for that. So with love and POCF pride, till next time, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. To support our community, I'd so appreciate it if you tap the subscribe button to this podcast or write a review. And if you're a POCF who wants to connect further, go to POCFpride.com for weekly vlogs and to learn about opportunities to join our private communities. We'd love to have you.